What is a Karen? They're mean, nasty, and in your personal space. Sometimes racist, usually crazy, and always a bad time. My name is Josh, and I am not your lawyer. But in this video, we're gonna break down how to survive Karens legally. This woman is upset that she didn't get her order right, and she's taking it out on the employee. Karens feel entitled to all of your personal information, and she's yelling for the name of the employee. Instead of just minding her business and continuing her day, this Karen is gonna get in the face and the personal space of this employee. The definition of assault is the same just about everywhere, and it's a reasonable apprehension of fear or bodily harm. If someone gets in your personal space, starts throwing things at you, you have a right to defend yourself and or retreat. You do not have to take this abuse and give them your personal information just because you're on the clock. You have rights even if you're an employee. And in this scenario, the customer is not always right. This Karen is attempting to shoplift at a store she's attacked before. One of the employees tells her she has to leave.
You gotta go.
And then this happens.
You gotta go now. Now. You gotta go now. Don't try nothing stupid because you're gonna get tased.
She runs outside and the employee decides to follow her.
I don't think
She
so.
grabs a watermelon and he says, let it go, pulling out a tase gun. Now, laws are gonna vary state to state, but in almost no circumstances should you, as an employee of a store, be tasing people who are not providing a threat, okay? Let's forget about the law for a second. It's just human decency. But tasers are called less lethal weapons. They're not called non-lethal. They're called less lethal weapons. Someone can have a heart attack. They could fall. And not only that, if you use excessive force, you could be opening up your employer to liability. In this scenario, she was clearly stealing a watermelon, but she also was clearly not putting anyone in danger. Depending on what jurisdiction she was in, there might have been shopkeeper's privilege that allowed him to restrain her until the police arrived. However, I think most courts, most judges that you'd get in front of would say that tasing somebody for stealing a watermelon is probably a little excessive. This woman was still a Karen though. This next clip proves that Karens know no gender, and we get our first male Karen.
Why are you an idiot?
In this Dallas, Texas TikTok, a man confronts someone who's filming him and decides to pull out a gun. This Karen can barely walk and looks to be intoxicated. All the other person did was record, and they reach into their pocket and pull out a handgun. The person who was recording freaked out, and I don't blame them. Listen, this situation went from 0 to 60. In no way, shape, or form was this person right for pulling the weapon. Now in Texas, where I'm based, it is an open carry state. Having a gun is not the problem. Pulling a gun, pointing the gun at someone is never okay unless you feel like your life is in danger. You only draw a weapon when you plan to use it. This Karen was evicted and faces criminal charges for pulling a gun and putting a person in danger. But let's talk about the right to record. Was there any justification for pulling that gun? The answer is no. In some states and cities, you have a right not to be recorded, but only when there's a reasonable expectation of privacy. In a hallway, out in public, on the streets, you do not have an expectation of privacy. The camera was not pointed inside this Karen's home. It was just in a public hallway. This man was totally out of line, even if he hadn't pulled a gun. If he had just pushed or shouted or shoved, it's still a Karen being Karen, and it's not right. The cameraman might have saved his own life by continuing to hit record, and I'm glad he did so that we could get this person charged and evicted. This behavior is never okay. This next Karen knows how to overstay her welcome. She asked if she could stay at a neighbor's for a few days and ended up turning it into months, creating a California squatting nightmare. Here you can see the Karen trying to grab at the reporter's microphone. Karens always alternate between confused and angry. This woman knows she's up to no good, as she's been staying in this woman's couch for months, refusing to leave. California is the absolute worst state to have a squatter. Check out a squatter video about California, actually, if you want to see that. This woman was tormented by having an unwanted house guest staying in her living room for months. And you can't just call the cops in California. You have to go through the eviction process. And there's tons of protections, even if someone has never paid rent. The only way this woman was able to get the Karen out of her home was to buy her off. She ended up getting her a U-Haul and paying for her first week in a motel, and now that Karen is someone else's problem. Adios, Karen. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. U-Haul does not support or endorse Karens. I love how she didn't even drive herself. Like, this woman was the definition of not my problem. Whether male or female, whether annoying or violent, Karens come in all shapes and sizes. If you need help knowing your rights for dealing with a Karen, remember, I'm not your lawyer, but I can help you find one. Reach out to me and we'll talk about your situation. Until then, check out our other videos on eviction and street fight self-defense. As always, I am not your lawyer.